going to be here. I'm going to ask Max. I need to ask Max and Mike if they're going to come. So give me a second. Otherwise, it's just going to be...
Stream has begun.
No. We haven't gone live
We're not
yet.
on here.
No.
Okay.
But we will be in 9 minutes because it automatically starts. So it's not like one of those things where I can delay it. So
quick question.
Yeah.
If you hit start streaming in OBS, it doesn't start streaming on YouTube.
No.
That didn't come out as a question.
Oh no, I know what you're asking. Yeah, you have to hit start streaming in both of them. If you start streaming in OBS, but you have not started streaming in YouTube, then you won't stream in YouTube. It doesn't become a thing until... Hello?
You have to hit start streaming.
Alice was just in here, and then she left.
Yeah, and then she left. She was listening.
Okay. Did we start?
That was the... I don't think so. I'm gonna look now. It's on. Is it on your channel or on the regular YouTube channel? I didn't look.
Hold on. Oh, we are live.
That's great. That's great.
This isn't... I'm not laughing. This is actually really irritating. So...
I know.
It's okay. How did you guys go live?
I hit the start streaming button in OBS. The way it's normally supposed to go is that if I have the stream set up to start when it is started at the start time, then the stream begins. That's why we set it in advance, right?
Yeah, well, apparently this is... I didn't know this, but apparently this just goes live when you hit live in OBS.
Okay.
So it's something to consider for the next time. Do you have anything you can play while you get the rest of the team in? It's the only thing I can say.
No, I don't have anything I can play. Can somebody else help me get the rest of the team in?
I
was just gonna send Mike and Max a message to say, "Hey, get in here," so that we can get started. That was basically the equivalent of what I was gonna do.
Well, they probably just usually come in at the hour, right?
Sometimes I need to poke them and remind them.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I can, you could try stopping.
There's Mike. There's
Mike. Thank you, Mike.
It's early.
Yeah, a bit.
It's a bit early, and it's actually live, so you're being recorded. So, well,
whatever. We got to get started.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. This is this new system, and as you can see, it has some bugs that we need to work out.
Mm-hmm.
There are some ingestion error warnings that I'm getting here. I don't know if you're getting them. Bad video settings. Please use a keyframe frequency of 4 seconds or less. Currently,
I don't know what that means.
I don't even know what that means.
Do we sound okay, guys, despite the fact that this came out all fucked up? Do we sound all right? Just let me know if the sound is good. I'm looking at the video. It seems fine. So, yeah. Can somebody PM Max and let us know?
Good.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Well,
we have him.
Unfortunately, this all ended up starting really early, Max.
Well, about 5 minutes early.
Yeah. So everybody's been listening to us.
Oh, wait,
which is hilarious because usually when we fuck up, we're late, and this time we fucked up and we're early.
Wait, we're live right now?
Yeah, we're live.
Yes, we're live right now.
Oh, wow. Now I feel like a giant asshole. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be so obnoxious.
You didn't actually do anything obnoxious. Okay, well, you're good. You're good. So we're just going to go with that. We're just going to go because everyone's here now. So
I was in the process of making an ad to put up on the Honey Badger channel, so I'm going to go finish that up.
Okay.
Good luck. Sorry about the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't...
Well, it's fine. We're not just fucked up here. We're fucked up everywhere. We're fucked up on Facebook and Twitch and Periscope and wherever this is streaming to, people are seeing this. Awesome. So,
it is okay.
I'm gonna go ahead. Yeah, thank you. We'll take it from here. I'll do what I can. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us on the show. Let me just try to get this set up here. Someone asked. Mark Bourne said, "Tell a joke." I have a joke. I was gonna get a hair. I was thinking about getting a haircut this weekend. That's the joke. Because I'm not going to need to. It would have been a waste of
money. By the way, how are you feeling?
Did you guys get it? It's I'm feeling fine. I actually have not started losing my hair yet, but I can feel it getting a little thinner up top. But I haven't started losing it. Although what I did do, because I was like thinking, okay, I think I need to get a hat, right? And there were people like bouncing ideas, like I was getting a hat because I don't normally wear them. I think my hair is great, don't need one, but I am probably going to need one, or at least I think I should get one. May as well. So I looked at getting a MAGA hat, but then I was like, well, I don't want to get my ass kicked for walking around Chicago just for wearing one. So maybe I won't because I like my ass the way it is. But what I did decide to do is weird, but I had this sudden urge to get the Jughead beanie from Archie. You know the beanie that Jughead wears? Does anybody know who I'm talking about? Anybody get
What's Archie?
You don't know what
I'm
Archie
kidding.
is? Oh, okay.
No, I know what Archie is. I just don't know who Jughead is.
You don't? Oh. Jughead is Archie's best friend, and he is like the original MGTOW, and he's this skinny dude that eats endless amounts of hamburgers and never gets fat, and he's really lazy, and he wears this little beanie. It's like a crown made of cloth. So, okay, so according to someone in the chat, we're not live on Facebook. That may not be our problem. But that might be the streaming guys, because I was under the impression that we had all the information we needed. So now that I've basically maximized how unprofessional this is, we can go ahead and start the intro. So I'll just go ahead and pull that up, because I normally have it ready. Oh,
Was that a subtle jab at me? Because
No.
we've maximized the unprofessionalism.
no. I'm the one who put us over the edge with peak. Because, no, Hannah and I were talking shit, like, before... When I hit the button, and she was actually asking me how streaming works. And the thing is, with OBS, it doesn't actually start. What is it?
Super Nerdland is in the comments.
They are? What did they say?
Yeah,
Let me see.
saying-
You didn't give us another key. Remember, we went over this Facebook. See? I asked about that. Okay, I'll give you guys the key. Hold on. I need to set it up. You know what? I'm not going to be able to this time. I couldn't remember that. I'm sorry. I'm not upset about it or anything. I just don't think I have the time to do all this stuff while the show is actually live, because I don't want to be doing this all day. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and do the show. We'll just leave it as it is for now, and next time this will require preparation. Normally, I would have done this earlier today, but I was in the hospital for half of the day, and then I came home, and the show stuff had not been prepared. So I had to do it really quick before starting. So this is what happens when you rush things. And it actually is extremely frustrating. So we're just going to go ahead, and we're just going to go ahead and do this shit. All right. So first, before I do, I better give you guys a link to So Super Nerdland guys, look, I'm not mad at you guys. Sorry about that. I was just frustrated because I didn't know what we were supposed to do. So first, let me give a link to the folks in here with me so you guys can see the write-ups, because you're going to need that, right? So
Mercy buckets.
What was that? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Nothing.
Okay. Quick, somebody else tell a joke while I'm trying to find this shit.
If I melt dry ice, can I swim without getting wet?
That's a Stephen Wright. I like that.
Yes.
I love Stephen Wright. Let me see.
When I was a little kid and I was in second grade, my teacher asked me, if we could be any animal, what would you be? And I said a bird. And she said, why? So you could fly? And I said, no, so my shit would be white. Teacher started crying.
All right. Let's just put the peoples in. Thanks, guys, for coming on such short notice. Actually, it's not short notice. It's just,
That's what she said?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. All right. Intro time. This for those of you guys who are doing time coders that want to make condensed versions. Start here. All right. In Chatelet, my dudes, and welcome to Title IX Can't Catch a Break. U.S. law is Islamophobic. Geek Girl Con, fake, where our stealthy polecats ferret out the best feels, funnies, and what the fucks to discuss Slam Bam Badger style. This is number 121, by the way. Today's show will be broadcast from my little corner of YouTube. Not really. This is actually being broadcast from are, it's not a new channel. It's an old channel that we used to call Badger Cinema. We've repurposed it, and we're going to be calling it Badger Streaming. We're basically going to use it as our streaming channel until the streaming comes back to HBR. And then we may leave it the same way, or we may just start streaming on HBR again. I don't really know. But that won't be until October, so we're just going to go with this system for now. All right, so this will be the case for all of our shows until further notice. So you may as well subscribe to Badger Livestream. That way you can catch our live streams on this second channel, and then when HBR is back up and running, we may move there. So I hope that you guys are ready for these changes. It should be a good time despite everything. I hope we have a ball, as it were. Today's Polecat panel consists of the Polecat Punster and Pussycat Punisher Hannah, Max Darrett, Simpsons kin, not jaundiced, it's not this time, Dr. Random Cam, Panda, Puppet Master, and Long Range Rhetorician, and me with my Globus Cruisinger and Scepter in hand, the Supreme Doge in charge. Today we'll be discussing the following topics, and we have a lot of stories, so we're going to try and get through them all quickly. Always going a shade beyond regular crazy, Peta has declared food can now be sexist, and cheese is the most sexist food of them all. I thought she said sexy, which I totally agree with, but it turns out it's sexist. Geek Girl Con has lost some volunteers because of the mismanagement and mean girl behavior coming from all of those women feminists crucible of women leaders at Fake Geek Girl Con. I mean, Geek Girl Con, just regular Geek Girl Con. We know there's no such thing as a fake geek girl. Come on. A bizarre case at USC shows how broken Title IX enforcement is right now. Visualize my surprise. Harvard's federal funding is now at risk because Donald Trump is looking at how they discriminate against Asian students. Looks like we're taking care of China here at home. But this is actually quite an interesting story. A Kansas governor signed a bill aimed at keeping courts from using Islamic or other non-US laws when making legal decisions. Yeah, and? Duh. This upset a national Muslim group who says it's Islamophobic to do so.
My dick.
Yeah, okay. Not surprised there. And our last story for the main show is Uber is having issues selecting a new women CEO. They have essentially put forward an initiative to make sure that they can get a woman in that seat at the top of the Uber pyramid. And they have narrowed it down to 3 men. Oh, the sexism. And finally, our bonus story for the patron-only after show. This is the third in the series of after show topics I'm doing. I will probably continue to do until I get bored or my patrons hate me for it. But I think it's actually been a lot of fun so far. A while back, I placed an order for Milo's book Dangerous from Amazon because while I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, I think he's fighting on behalf of free speech far eclipses any differences that we may have politically or ideologically. I thought it could be fun for me to read from his book to the patrons. So we've been reading a chapter called Why Feminists Hate Me. All of his chapters are named after groups of people who hate him. But I'm reading through it specifically to see what he has to say about his issues with feminism, but also if he has anything to say about MRAs. And there is a section within that chapter on MRAs, which I've been reading and building towards, because I know that Milo's occasionally pissed off MRAs, like he said things in support of circumcision, for example. So we'll see what he has to say in this book. Anyway, if you would like to participate in our after shows, either as an audience member or a participant, please consider becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. And now we are ready to get into the stories. Some of these are really little ones that we just think are funny. So we're going to get into cheese first, and I'm going to give that to Max.
All right, sup, chillins. So, fellow honey badgers, let me ask you all a question. I want you to answer yes or no, okay? Do you like cheese?
I love it. It actually, I'm a little bit lactose intolerant, and when it comes to cheese, I don't give a shit.
Sure.
I mean, actually, I do because I'm eating.
I was gonna say that's the nature of lactose intolerance, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. Next question. Do you like putting cheese in your mouth?
Oh, I love it.
Pudding cheese. Is that a new kind of...
Wait. Oh,
Is
Matt,
it
wait,
sexist
hold on.
to ask a woman to talk about what she does or does not like to put in her mouth?
Hold on. Mike is really low. Mike, are you using is the right mic turned on for you? I can barely hear you.
I see him as muted.
Yeah, hang on. I'll fix it.
Okay. Because I know Mike was trying to say something about cheese, and I wanted to hear what he has to say. Or pudding.
Just it's for anyone that remembers the old, I think it was Merry Melodies cartoon with the cats talking about fighting back against the dog, and the first quote was, "Are we men or are we mice?" And one of the other cats goes, "I want cheese."
Cinderella. Okay, so we have established that we both like cheese. We all like cheese, and we like putting cheese in our mouths. Well, congratulations. We've all just validated sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
Wondering how I came to that conclusion? Great. I am too. Maybe you can help me understand this. So, PETA, otherwise known as the Puntas for the people for the ethical treatment of animals, believe it is sexist for you to eat cheese. No, really, I'm serious. Allow me to read you this quote from an article titled "Why Cheese is the Most Sexist Thing You Can Eat" from PETA's main website. Quote, "Can food really be sexist? Yes, when it's the product of imprisonment, rape, reproductive control, kidnapping, and abuse. Contrary to popular belief, female cows produce milk only when they're pregnant or nursing. They make milk for the same reason that human women do, to feed their babies. Cows who are imprisoned on dairy farms are forcibly impregnated through artificial insemination again and again on rape racks." Apparently that's what they call them. "All for your milk, cheese, and yogurt." Now, if you're an animal rights activist, more power to you. Like, I don't agree with the ultimate ends of most animal rights activists, but I still believe the desire to protect animals is a perfectly honorable thing to pursue. However, to say that unethical treatment of animals, no less, is a product of sexist attitudes and that we should stop eating cheese for that reason is like saying we should stop watching sports because there are male and female divisions. And there probably has been a feminist out there that has said something similar to that in the past. Okay, who wants to put their fingers into this Swiss cheese?
I wondered which way they were going to go with it. Are they going to go with because it comes from breasts and that's sexist against women? Or is it because it resembles dick cheese, which comes from men, and that's patriarchal?
Oh, jeez. Well, it depends on what kind of milk you're drinking. I mean, if it's expired, it might... Wow, I just went really gross there. I'm sorry.
Super gross.
It just
You know what's interesting? You know what I find interesting about this article? Because I went through and I read this article. Like, it was torture. I tell you, the things that I do. But I read the article twice. First, just to deal with the stupidity of reading a PETA article, because even other animal rights activists scoff at PETA quite frequently for good reason. But there was a little gem in there that I think everybody probably missed because it was like one sentence mention. And they went off about the kidnapping of the calves, right? And how terrible it must be for these cow mothers because cows are some of the most intelligent creatures out there, right? That go through absolute torture, and you can tell by their behavior that they just are distraught when they're separated from their babies. But in any case, they mentioned very briefly what happens to the male calves, and then went on to lament that the female calves would be raised to be milk cows. They didn't seem to think it was sexist that being male got the male calves killed for veal. That's no problem, right? That's not sexist. Just the stuff that happens to the female calves and to the cows as opposed to the bulls, that's sexist. Anyone want to question how they obtain bull semen?
They jerk off the bulls?
Yeah, do they get consent?
No.
I mean, if we're going to get really outraged for the sake of being outraged, by the way, bull semen is also used as a skin treatment by a lot of women, just for the record. And probably
semen in general is used as a skin treatment for women.
Yeah, but bull semen is actually peddled as a skin treatment, whereas, it's recreational when it's human semen. But in any case, if PETA's going to get upset about all of this, and some of it is probably stuff that we could find better ways to deal with and better ways to do and so on, but if they're really going to get upset about this, and they're only upset about the cows that are being milked and being separated from their calves and so on, but they don't care about the calves that are being killed and the bulls that are getting milked. Apparently it's not rape to milk a bull, but it's rape to inseminate a cow. It seems to me that PETA's a little, I don't know, sexist themselves.
So I'd like to see if there's a study that you can do to find out just how crazy you have to be to actually like join PETA and do the stuff that they do. Because I think they're just way out there. Like, I've seen crazy shit on race hustlers like Tariq Nasheed and Ghazi Kozdo or whatever his name is, Ahuru, and I've seen crazy shit that feminists do, and I've seen crazy shit that trans activists do, but none of it compares to PETA. I almost said they're vegans. I mean, I think that they probably are, but it's like beyond the pale. Like, these guys are just out there. There has to be. I want to see a peer-reviewed, long, over a period of time, study done on the psychological, state that you have to be to become a hardcore PETA supporter. And I extend this to Paul McCartney as well, who I believe is actually involved in that a lot. So that's all I'm saying. They're nuts, and this is not surprising. They're always trying to push the envelope and do edgy shit. They brand each other. It's insane. So
the only cool thing they ever did is when they got celebrities to not wear anything. Is it a protest against fur?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that was cool, but I guess it wasn't edgy enough. It
was cool for a different reason.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't know.
Oh, you mean the naked billboards?
Yeah, the naked billboards. It was all
right.
That
was
I think
definitely cool for a different reason.
For a different reason, for sure. But I think that what the problem with it was that it wasn't they weren't getting the response they wanted. They wanted people to be upset, and they thought that would do it, but it didn't really make anybody mad. It made people interested in naked people, which they should be, because naked people are pretty cool. So, but that's all I got to say about that. I don't know. I don't really have anything to add except whoa, So if anything, we can just move on to the next story. It's just crazy.
Jeez Louise, guys, don't belabor the point.
Oh, okay. So let me see. I'll go ahead and read the next bit. This would be pretty fun too. Fake Geek Girl Con. Get your inclusion on. So apparently there is this thing called Geek Girl Con. It's been hosting its annual convention in Seattle since 2011. Oh, imagine my surprise, Seattle. As a registered nonprofit and draws upwards of 11,000 attendees. Geek Girl Con strives to be an inclusive space for minorities in science and geek culture. And as inclusive safe spaces tend to go, some people have been found more equal than others. As a nonprofit, many of the organization's staff are volunteers, and some drama has sprouted from vocally resigning organizers, accusing the executive director and board of mismanagement of funds, accusing the executive director and board of mismanagement and of funds and discrimination and bullying. Michelle Carrico Domingo, the executive director of Geek Girl Con, was accused of circulating documents with details of private sexual encounters unrelated to Geek Girl Con in an effort to discriminate against and kink shame a volunteer, as cited by GeekWire. Geek Girl Con published a response on its website assuring the con would go on and that the resigning volunteers were only 5 in 50 others who are honored to be led by the executive director. The public letter reminded everyone the leader of the organization is a woman of color, shame, 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 and concluded by reaffirming its guidelines. We are geeks. We savor the scientific, the logical, and the precise. I'm gonna have a hard time getting through this shit. We revel. We revel in the unknown, the fantastic, and the unimaginable. We exist in the in-between, where the ingenuity stretches possibility and transformation is born. We code, we concoct, we create, and cosplay. The imagination is our only limit, and ours is limitless. We are girls, and we are women, and femmes, and non-binary, gender non-conforming individuals, and we are allies. Basically, we're everything but men. Our personalities are as diverse as our backgrounds and bodies. We are many voices and countless tales. We are diversity, and we defy expectations. We are a community. We break barriers and democratize opportunity. We provide safe spaces to do what we love, learn, connect, invent, and challenge. We are here to fearlessly and fiercely celebrate one another. So they're not going to address these issues of mismanaged funds or anything because it's a woman of color and because of this poem or whatever the fuck it is, this prose that was written up.
They forgot one.
Go ahead.
We are so fucking annoying.
You know what? I'm actually really getting tired of hearing the word geek. I'm really legitimately getting sick of hearing it. They have beaten it to the ground. It doesn't mean anything anymore. No, it doesn't mean anything anymore. It's meaningless and it's annoying. It really is. So anyway.
Yeah, congratulations on killing a term that you adopted, social justice warriors, because you thought it was becoming a popular thing. You basically just made it nothing.
Yep. Does anyone...
You thought it was becoming a popular
Thanks
thing.
for bringing high school bullshit
basically
into something
nothing.
That's supposed to be fun for all. I mean, like, when it comes to...
you thought it was becoming a popular
Thanks
thing.
for bringing high school that are, like, let's just use the non-tainted version of the word geek. But when you think of conventions where geeks gather to celebrate what they love the most, it's supposed to be an event that's good for your soul, where you're just around a whole bunch of people that are smiling and being around things that they love and people that love the stuff that they love as much as they love it. And then when you bring in stuff like this, it just taints it. Whether or not you try to hide it and put a whole bunch of PR in front of it, it just taints it. And especially the fact... Another thing, whether or not you try to hide it and put a whole bunch of... I guess like everybody in our community that's been privy to what this Geek Girl Con is, I'm just learning about it for the first time. I guess this sort of thing should have been expected, you know?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. No, color me shocked that relational aggression was the thing that made this make the news. The thing that made everybody aware that there was a Geek Girl Con was girls jostling for social position by demeaning each other and pushing each other down and shaming each other over behaviors that feminists claim girls shouldn't be shaming each other over. Color me shocked. Does that make me a woman of color? Mm-hmm. Seriously, like. Well,
I mean, you're saying color me shocked, so I guess that makes you a woman of color, just not in the traditional sense.
Yeah, I just the fact that like there are so many people out there that never would have heard of Geek Girl Con that now have heard of it, and this is the only thing they heard. Because this is the thing that made the news. This is what put Geek Girl Con on the map. Not actual inclusiveness, not turning a profit and having to deal with, hey, you know, maybe we're not a nonprofit anymore. Not doing great things for women and girls. Not even any of the cool attractions that they might have had, you know, because if they're a geek con, they got to have something cool that's geeky, right?
Yeah.
You know, no, none of that stuff. Nope. The fact that this director, this executive director, is accused of circulating documents with details of private sexual encounters unrelated to Geek Girl Con. I would like to know, by the way, exactly what private sexual encounters are related to Geek Girl Con, because it might be more interesting, might make the whole thing worth attending. But
yeah,
in any case, what kind of things go on there? But in an effort to discriminate against and kink shame a volunteer, no less, so she had to put down a volunteer. She had to actually, like, she couldn't just say, well, we don't need your services next time. No, she had to actually blast this chick with crap that, again, feminists would say this is the kind of thing you shouldn't do to a girl, that this is something that women should know better than doing because it's misogyny when you do it to a girl.
I'm
But
going to
here
tell you
we have-
exactly. Sorry.
Sorry. Here, and the excuse is she's a woman of color? Really? That makes it better? Sorry, but
So, yeah.
God.
I'll tell you exactly what happened here, okay? The volunteer, I'm guessing, was dressed up in some sort of like Lara Croft cosplay, right? And she looked really good. And everybody that she talked to, like, they probably said that she was really nice. And then the a woman of color CEO or the leader or whatever got really jealous of this fact, and then she just started talking shit over email. That's exactly what happened here.
It could be any number of things. When I've dealt with female managers that were abusive, a lot of times it was over, like, a problem would come up and I came up with a solution and they didn't. Things like that. All you have to do is momentarily be better at anything than an incompetent female manager. And like male managers that don't know their shit. I've worked with both. I've worked with male and female managers that don't know their shit. And I've worked with some really great managers too. So it's like not like I'm smarter than everybody in my own head or something. But when I run into a male manager who is some degree of incompetent and actually and I actually come up with a solution to something that he can't, the first thing that happens is all of a sudden I'm pushed to the forefront of everything, right? Oh, Hannah's your go-to girl. Just she'll fix it, and look, I picked a great employee. See how smart I am? I've got this person covering it. I know how to delegate. Not a woman. Holy shit, no. You're smarter than me? Can't have anybody figure that out. It can't be that I was right this time and not all the time. It can't be that I'm good at one thing. No. A female manager gets really, really insecure the moment an employee or a volunteer does anything, even the most minor thing, better than her, or knows more about any topic. Again, even the most minor topic, even a non-work related topic. And all of a sudden, you're on the shit list. You are the target for any and every possible nasty ass thing she can do. I had a manager write me up for following company policy. Literally following company policy. Not for doing the right, just doing the right thing. Following company policy. Because I in the course of following that company policy, inadvertently embarrassed her because she didn't know what that policy was yet as a new manager. Something that she wasn't, it shouldn't have been that embarrassing. Right? This is the kind of thing that women do to each other in the workplace. And then they get pissed off and blame men. And like I said, I am not the least bit surprised that this is the first thing that made the news about Geek Girl Con. I'm not the least bit surprised that this is how everybody gets to know Geek Girl Con. I think it's rather deliciously typical of women-run, feminist-oriented, social justice-y bullshit initiatives like this. This is exactly what they were asking for when they started it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that they were asking for it, Hannah?
Oh, you bet your ass. They were asking for it. They were begging for it. They were screaming for it. And now they'll be screaming about it.
Don't bet your own ass. Always bet the other person's ass.
There you go.
Preach.
Okay, so I don't really, I mean, there's not much else to add here. It just, it's really telling that basically the story revolves around drama and women not being able to get along very well. And when that happens, the women in charge try to make it about the fucking sisterhood, because the idea that people couldn't get along because there are cunts that exist, that's just unbelievable. So we'll move on to the next story.
Sorry, quickly,
Max,
before we move on, just two quick questions. One, you know how it says, and we are, well, not a question and a statement. You know how it says, and we are women and femmes and non-binary, blah, blah, blah. What the hell is a femme?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
It's something in between. It's like It's something in between non-binary and woman, apparently. But that's all I know. Or maybe a femme is like a feminine woman. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to know.
Well, I know what it used to mean. I mean, they used to describe a lot of lesbian relationships as having a butch and a femme, and the butch was the more masculine of the two, and the femme was the more effeminate female.
Oh yeah,
and
that's how it's actually defined in the dictionary: is a lesbian whose appearance and behavior are seen as traditionally feminine. So
so it's kind of
who knows?
I don't think that's how they're using it, because those are still women.
Yeah, but I don't think that's how they're using it, because it doesn't actually say lesbian on that list. So basically, they would be excluding regular lesbians and butch lesbians and only saying femmes. So it probably means some other shit at this point. Who knows?
Well, it doesn't say anything about trans women, but maybe they're not they're not separating
non-binary. I think they lump trans people in with non-binary, gender non-conforming individuals. Plus, if you look at this one photo from Geek Girl Con that I have displayed on the website, there are some people who look like men in the audience. That's how I'm going to say it. There's like there's a guy with a straight up bald horseshoe haircut, looks like a man. There's a few people that look like a man.
Well, maybe femmes are effeminate men that are not that are gender non-conforming, but not. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But they gotta segregate every difference that can exist in people.
Somebody is saying there's something wrong with the stream. Try saying some stuff, Hannah.
Some stuff.
Okay, my testing stream seems good. Can
you hear us?
The stream is off. Okay, what does that mean? What does it mean the stream is off?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I don't know what that means.
The stream is off?
FFS means for fuck's sake, Michael Keller.
Okay.
Refresh it. It seems to be working now, somebody says. It might just be that. I don't know. It says it's back. I don't know. I can't actually manage like the quality of the stream, so I don't know what's going on with it. So I apologize. Now it says it's offline. I just looked at my thing. I didn't press any buttons. I didn't do anything. So I don't know.
Fake Geek Girl Con is coming after us.
To answer Zeno from the chat, that word doesn't mean anything anymore. Why should we use it?
Wait, what?
Guys, how about we call them all faggots? like I said, that word doesn't mean anything anymore. Why should we use it?
Hold on.
I'll just say what I was going to say, so that right when we get power back, we can just move right on to the next topic.
All right. We're good. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, if anybody lives in Seattle and is like near this and wants to attend the upcoming Geek Girl Con, I will pay you $50 to run into the biggest crowd and shout out and enunciate well, Gamergate did nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I would do that. I would do that partly because the moment anyone recognized that there was a honey badger there, they'd kick the honey badger out for being a honey badger anyway. Because no matter how inclusive they say they are, we don't women right. So
Mm-hmm. All right, moving.
Might as well get my ass kicked in the process.
There you go. It's good for you, a little ass kicking. All right, moving on to the next story.
Bill's character.
Yeah, Bill's character. So, Title IX officials ignore students during adjudication. Now we're getting to the real stories. This is not the first bizarre case we will hear about Title IX, and this will most definitely be the last one, but this particular story will, in fact, be unique. Imagine being a female undergrad on U.S. campus. Then imagine that your boyfriend is then accused not by you, but a third party of sexually assaulting you. Before you know it, he is suspended from the university before an investigation even begins. You then try to tell the Title IX officials of your university that you were not a victim of anything, but instead you are told from those same officials that you must be afraid of him. Suddenly, the university even issues a no-contact order between you and your boyfriend, and you are reprimanded for discussing this issue with a friend who later appears during the adjudication process. Eventually, your boyfriend is expelled from the university without you even offering any piece of incriminating evidence. This is a real thing that happened. This is the story of Zoe Katz and Matt Bormeister, a couple who are undergraduates at the University of Southern California. In the words of Zoe, not the Zoe that you guys might be thinking of, Matt Bormeister did nothing improper against me ever, which sounds like something she would never say. I would not stand for it, nor will I stand for watching him be maligned and lied about, and I implore the USC community to stand together to stop this from happening to Matt or anyone else. What many people fail to understand about Title IX is that for any complaint, a university must do some sort of investigation. Also, what many don't know is that anyone, yes, quite literally anyone, can file a Title IX complaint against somebody else. The person making a complaint doesn't even have to be a member of the university or a direct party to the complaint. For example, what would typically be termed a victim or offender? While many cases without any merit would be dismissed or handled with a small investigation or minimal repercussions, Title IX investigators have a lot of leeway to pursue whatever type of investigation they want. Because of the Obama-era Dear Colleague letter, institutions are afraid of losing federal dollars for not handling Title IX violations on their college campuses. They were viewed as not taking sexual assault on campus seriously. They risked losing money. Because universities must at least investigate, and we use that term extremely loosely when talking about Title IX investigations, every complaint to some degree, universities put themselves in a bind. Even if a victim doesn't want to partake in the adjudication process, or even actively opposes the action being taken against their supposed offender, Title IX must persist. What is also unfortunate for those being subjected to the assault of Title IX on their personal liberties is that many schools have some pretty fair as Title IX adjudications can be when looking at due process in the U.S., rogue Title IX officials routinely ignore their school's policies around investigations, consistently infringing on the rights of the accused. Maybe if schools didn't spend so much time shoving the Duluth model, patriarchy, and other baloney theories down their staff's throats and actually taught Title IX officials to be impartial, the universities would not experience as many allegations of due process violations. Now,
what happened to listening to the victim? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, what happened to listen to the victim? The victim?
Well, that's the believe the woman narrative falls apart the moment the woman doesn't want to make an accusation that feminists want the woman to make. They don't give a shit. This isn't even a new thing. Something like this, but not quite this degree of it, I should say, happened when I was at school, happened when I was at university. Now, back in the 90s, the nice thing was this bullshit that came out of the Dear Colleague letter didn't exist yet. And so once it got to the investigation process and the hearing part of it, the moment it came out that the alleged victim didn't feel victimized and considered consent, to have been given and was still valid, then the university, the investigators, in fact, one of the female investigators came out with the line, "Well, this was a complete waste of time. Thanks for wasting everybody's time, accuser." And that was it. It was done and over with. Now we have the situation where the university's staff considers it their job to find an accused, a person accused or a man accused particularly of sexual harassment or any other type of sexual misconduct responsible, which is university speak for guilty. And if the alleged victim doesn't agree, then the alleged victim is in the wrong, according to the university's methodology. And that's just the way things are now under this law. That's one of the reasons why it has to go. But I also see this as a lawsuit waiting to happen. In fact, I see this as a sexual harassment lawsuit waiting to happen, because here you have a situation where a third party with no right to interfere has interfered in a relationship between two people. And a university doing something like this, where they've ignored the alleged victim's side of the story because it doesn't make her a victim, and they've ignored the fact that the alleged victim objects to being called a victim, and they've ignored the fact that the alleged victim objects to accusations being made against the alleged perpetrator. They've ignored all of this stuff in order to find him responsible and expel him. This opens up the gate for individuals who are jealous of a relationship that somebody has with a person that they have an interest in. They can now get rid of their rival by making an accusation like this. And a university has to follow up on it. And if the university feels responsible for getting rid of the individual, getting the individual off campus because he was merely accused of something, even when the person he was accused of harming says, no, nothing wrong happened, then what they're basically doing is putting the power in everybody's hands to interfere in people's relationships. If this was my relationship and I was put through this on either side of the case, whether being the alleged victim or the accused, I would be suing for sexual harassment. I'd be suing the individual that made the accusation, and I'd be suing the university. Because right now, that's the only way that these students have to fight back. And while I usually advise against using lawsuits like that, when it's the only way that you have to fight back, then go for it. Universities have to have some sort of consequence that they will face for doing shit like this, or it'll continue, and it may even accelerate. It may get worse, because this kind of stuff, like a criminal investigation, can use a university's finding like this as part of its investigation, as part of the process, and it can be considered evidence. So yeah, this is essentially the only way to deal with stuff like this. Until the law changes, until the system is remedied, until there's reform, everybody that goes through something like this needs to get a lawyer and fight back in court.
Okay, so Home Dude, he was accused by a third party, and I'm assuming this third party is anonymous.
Yeah, we don't know who it is.
Yeah, so...
But this person was, I think, a friend of the girl. And he basically, this person, whether it's male or female, we don't know, accused Matt of sexual misconduct with his girlfriend on his girlfriend's behalf without her knowledge.
Okay, well, how the fuck would she know? And if the actual girlfriend is saying, no, he didn't rape me, we're cool, then why the hell is this going any further than it already I've heard that Title IX isn't the best law in the past. It's only right now that I'm starting to understand how fucked up this shit has gone. You can just say, you can be a third party and say, hey, this guy is a creep, and then it's going to lead to this whole legal kerfuffle that's going to likely put a dent on your permanent record. That's nuts.
I just want to clarify one thing here. It's not just Title IX anymore. It used to be just a Title IX issue. This is a combined Title IX, Campus Save Act, Violence Against Women Act, and policy, unvetted policy written by unelected officials.
Right.
Issue.
Well, before you go down that road, real quick.
Yeah,
before you
so
go down
that's
that road,
it. That's all I wanted to say.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say thank you to Kyle Cole. He gave us $5 in the super chat. That's all. So yes, Title IX. It's not just that, and that's why the person who wrote this up mentions the other things like the Duluth model and rape culture. Is basically you take all of that shit and it all just plays together to make this environment. In this, according to Katz, her testimony, and I'm going to repeat part of it, but this is just so that you guys who are just joining us on Facebook, because it did go up live on Facebook just a little while ago. Katz, this is the girlfriend who is supposed to be the victim, even though she didn't ask to be the victim. She says that she was summoned to a mandatory meeting with the Title IX officials where she told investigators that the two were just playing around. Katz was subsequently told that she must be afraid of Matt because she is saying that she isn't. So that means she must be. It's like this fucking reverse psychology shit. She told officials that she wasn't. Bormeister, that's the boyfriend, Matt, has not been arrested or charged with any crimes. When I told the truth about Matt in repeated interrogations, I was stereotyped and I was told that I must be a battered woman, and that made me feel demeaned and absurdly profiled. According to Katz, I understand that domestic violence is a terrible problem, but in no way does that apply to Matt and myself. Katz said that she has never been abused, assaulted, or otherwise mistreated by Matt, but because she denied it, and we all know, according to feminists, if a woman is denying it, that means that she has like fucking Stockholm syndrome or something, and the university has to do something. They have to investigate, and I think that for their own interests, because A, they want to remain, getting their funding, so I think money plays a role in it, as well as they want to maintain their reputation. It's just easier to expel the student, period. It's just easier for them to do that. So there you go. Now, observing libertarian gave us $5, and he says, listen and believe until the victim says something you don't agree with, in which case ignore and deny.
That's a really good point. And I was going to say, no means no just went by the wayside, didn't it? Because she said no, and they didn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And it was okay for them to accuse him, but she said no, and the university didn't stop. So as far as her consent didn't matter to them, did it?
For you guys that are asking, it's Katz with a K and a Z at the end. The people are asking about how her name is spelled. K-A-T-Z.
I hope she becomes a doctor.
Yeah.
It's like
Go ahead.
Can a fourth party force them to marry each other to cure the impurities? Is that the next step? A law to do that? This poor girl Zoe Katz. Not only has she been raped, and she's clearly got Stockholm syndrome, she could be forced to marry her rapist.
Well, they got to get a shotgun first. But before you start going with Stockholm syndrome, first you have to accuse her of having been dipped in a mix of beer or some other liquid and flour and shortening and the right spices in preparation for frying. She's got to be a battered woman.
Jesus Christ, Hannah.
That's not her name. We just established that it was Katz.
If there is a problem with YouTube's live streaming, because some people are saying it froze, try refreshing the page. It's not OBS. It's not my computer this time. My computer, I've fixed the problem, and I'm using an updated program. It does not have that freezing issue. So try it might be YouTube being goofy. If you don't like YouTube, try going to Twitch or try going to the Facebook live. It might be better.
It's because Google just fired the one guy that made things run smoothly.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
They fire that guy, and all of a sudden, can't stream right. Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, there we go. So yeah, we are going to talk about the Google guy tomorrow, and also maybe Thursday a bit. So, anyway, so I don't know. This story is pretty messed up. This is just showing us more reasons why Title IX needs to be reformed, looked at, removed, something. Obviously, colleges should not be involved in this shit. And I hope that I know that the Trump administration was looking into it, or at least there was some lip service given. So we'll see if they follow up. I hope that they do. We've talked
giving
about
lip
this plenty of
service
time.
is definitely a rape.
Yeah, especially if no one wanted it. Let's go on to the next story. Let's go on to the next story. Before we do, though, there's something I want to mention. I'm going to do a little shill here. Title IX, most recently the Dear Colleague letter of 2011. This is related to Title IX, obviously, from the Department of Education, as well as subsequent clarifications, have caused much strife for students accused of sexual assault on college campuses in the United States. Many students, mostly male, have been railroaded out of their institutions on little to no evidence of wrongdoing. A few weeks ago, Honey Badger Radio discussed the story of Betsy DeVos, it's the thing we were just talking about, President Trump's secretary on education, meeting with a wide range of people. DeVos met with rape survivors and their advocates, students falsely accused of sexual assault and their advocates, as well as some specialists on sexual assault on college campuses. Included in the meetings were also some men's rights advocates from the NCFM. By meeting with MRAs, DeVos drew the ire of many victim advocates and feminists alike. By wanting to hear all sides on the discussion, DeVos was immediately criticized. Weeks later, the Department of Education is requesting input to alleviate unnecessary regulatory burdens in accordance with Executive Order 13777. I almost expected that to be 66 for some reason. Execute Order 66. Enforcing the regulatory reform agenda. The public have a great opportunity to offer their views on any aspects of the Department of Education. Specifically, we could hope that Title IX in its entirety receives a hard scrutiny, especially the Dear Colleague letter of 2011. If you would like to offer your opinions on any part of the Department of Education, please follow the links below to the regulations.gov website. This is a very rare opportunity for the Department of Education to hear you and your views on Title IX and due process violations that have ensued. And if you want to go there, there are links. There's a link to the show notes in the low bar of this video on the YouTube, as well as if you go to our Patreon and go to the posts, you should see it there right at near the top. So go there or go to honeybadgerbrigade.com. You'll see the links in the story. In the article that is titled with the same title as this video. Okay, Max, go ahead.
Okay, so is this restricted to only people that live in the States?
I don't know. You could try to connect to it from from Canada and see. Maybe. I mean, I guess I could see that, but maybe I don't know. Maybe the government is so bad at what they do that they are basically just letting people do whatever.
You could probably connect to it from Canada. You could probably at least see it from Canada. I would take a look. The possibilities, yeah, there's different ways of contacting listed on the page. The first link actually includes for further information contact, then it gives phone numbers and it gives a mailing address. So if for some reason it starts asking things like, what state do you live in or what's your zip code and stuff like that, which a lot of government contact does to vet non-U.S. citizens. If you are contacting this organization or this entity to discuss Title IX from outside of the United States, I suggest pointing out that the United States does have a lot of international students who pay to come to school here, and that this actually is something that affects the reputation of the education system in the United States all over the world. And that's because that's something that is worth the government paying attention to. Like, they may not pay attention to anything that you say about ethics or morality or anything like that, because this is the U.S. government and they don't give a shit. But if you talk about the reputation of the U.S. education system all over the world, that might have a different effect. And they will be more likely to see you as having a stake in this if you talk about the fact that there are international students in the U.S. And that, if you're a potential parent of an international student or a potential international student yourself, things like that would have an impact. That would make them more likely to listen. And as far as anybody doing this, I don't forget to mention the case we just discussed, because that really, there's numerous things that we've discussed that would make this hit home. The guy that was expelled for being accused of having raped his rapist, that would be another one to mention. These are things that make it really hit home. This is a stupid setup. But yeah, definitely, just because you're not a citizen of the United States doesn't mean that you have no input on this, because this is the U.S. education system and it does affect every student, including international students. Mm-hmm. In fact, especially international students, because some students are here on a student visa. Probably most students are here on a student visa. And if you get kicked out of school, you get kicked out of the country. You
Mm-hmm.
lose your chance.
That's true. That's a very good point. I didn't actually consider. Another $5 from Observing Libertarian. Thank you, Observing Libertarian. He says, what we really need is segregated education. Stop men from being subjected to two-tier legal systems which demote them to being second-class citizens.
That would be a good thing if we could prevent feminists from turning it into top-tier education for women, second-tier education for men. You know,
True.
and that's where we'd be headed. We have to address the gynocentrism first, because unfortunately, no matter what we do to remedy this, if it doesn't address the gynocentric outlook, and it doesn't address the fact that discrimination is discrimination regardless of who you're targeting with it, it's going to result in men getting discriminated against one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next story, but it's related. So speaking of foreign exchange students, college, and funding, and Trump versus China, Trump's administration is addressing the discriminatory outcome of race quotas at Harvard University, which may put the school's federal funding in jeopardy. Early reports suggested the Trump administration would launch a nationwide assault on affirmative action programs. However, it has been clarified to be limited to a probe into a single complaint to the civil rights units of Justice and the Department of Education. It was filed by 64 Asian American groups under the banner of the Coalition of Asian American Associations in 2015. According to the College Fix, when Harvard University faced this regulatory complaint, the Obama administration gave it a pass, citing ongoing litigation on the subject. By nature, quotas prioritize other factors over merit, and in this case, it appears Asian American admissions are being artificially held down at Harvard. The complaint cited a book by Radford and Espenshade that reported Asian Americans needed SAT scores that were about 140 points higher than white students, all other quantifiable variables being equal, to get into these elite schools. Chunyan Lee, a board member of the Asian American Coalition for Education, told the College Fix many students and organizations had filed complaints with the two federal agencies since 2006 that allege severe discrimination against Asian Americans in higher education in violation of Title VI. However, over the last 10 years, the prior administrations have not conducted objective investigation into these complaints, the statement added, thanking the Trump administration for providing Asian American students with equal protection under the laws.
Not so racist anymore.
That's well, I mean, they haven't done
Trump.
it yet. They're looking at it. Well, yeah, but you understand, Max, that Asians are actually considered part of the privileged class these days. So it is still white supremacy somehow. So yeah, that this isn't gonna fly, my brother.
My brother.
he's looking out for people who have more privilege than he does. So it's wrong. Believe me, this is still bad for people. So unless, of course, Asians are complaining about how they're represented in the media or something, and then it's totally okay. It's just when it comes to actually doing real things in the real world in college, where the colleges essentially hold them to a much higher standard of entry, and yet they still get in. It's almost like Asians have generally a higher IQ. Did I just go into the fucking weeds with that one? Okay,
It
so
might be. You know, and if they do, then they deserve to get in at a higher rate. They deserve to dominate certain areas, the areas that they're better at. If they're better at something, they deserve the reward of dominating that area. It's not discrimination to have Asians disproportionately represented in an area that if they do better than other people at that particular area. And I like that if I were competing and they edge me out, that means that they merit that position.
Mhm.
God forbid a meritocracy might benefit somebody who is not white. What the hell?
It might, but it also, the thing is, the people complaining in this instance are the Asian students, because Harvard is making it harder for them. White students don't.
Yeah.
White students don't care. But I mean that it's like,
well, I'm sure there are people, that would hide behind the mask of social justice, going, "Well, they're not black, so they're not discriminated against. It's not discrimination because they're just other white." You know, I'm sure there would be.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing. You know, there may be another reason why the social justice crowd doesn't want to deal with this. Like, there's this stereotype, and I honestly, I don't know if it's just a stereotype or if it's really a common thing, but there's this stereotype, I think it's called tiger parenting or something like that, where the parents really, really push the child from early childhood to excel.
Yeah,
and there's,
that's why Asians like play instruments and shit like that too. Like,
supposedly,
it's definitely a cultural thing, but I also think that there is a biological component, and that's if you consider,
there very well could
if
be.
you consider that if the cultural thing. Well, this is what I just want to get to this real quick because I don't want people to misunderstand where I'm coming from. If the cultural thing influences sexual selection within that group, let's say Asian women are selecting men for the qualities that are based on some cultural aspect that's pushed on them. So, for example, if they're pushed to excel, and then therefore they are selecting people who, men who are as, at or above their social hierarchical order, then you are seeing what you could see over time is a biological consequence of a cultural facet of a society. So,
right, you definitely could. You definitely could.
Yeah.
But the thing I wanted to point out is the reason that social justice types might not want to deal with either the biological or the cultural aspect of this. And I got people pointing out not all stereotypes are false. No, ILC said tiger parenting is a stereotype based on reality. Okay, most stereotypes are based on to some degree on reality. Some of them are extreme exaggerations, and some of them are generalizations of a minority within a group to the entire group, and some of them aren't. But the thing is, this particular stereotype, if it is a widespread reality, and it's something that could happen to a dysfunctional degree, but it's also something that can have a functionality at least at a level where the child still gets to be a child, but is pushed to excel. And I've known kids that were pushed to excel. I grew up in a community where some of the kids lived on farms and some of the kids lived in town. And a lot of the kids who lived on farms got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do farm chores, worked their butts off. Some of them were in sports, some of them had after school jobs, and they were still expected to get straight A's in school if they had that intellectual capability. I went to school with kids that got punished if they did not work up to their intellectual capacity. And what I saw there was that these kids not only worked harder, but they got better grades.
Yeah.
And they were more successful in school.
Sure.
Now there's a point at which you can burn a kid out doing that. And that's really bad. So I'm not saying that this is always a good thing. But I think social justice types might not want to address this issue specifically because they don't want to admit that pushing people to work hard and be diligent and take personal responsibility and strive for their personal best, to be accountable, to meet certain standards, that those things are actually good for kids, and that it is not bigotry to push kids to do better and to push people to do better. And it is not bigotry to say that if a group of people is failing, it might be because our society is facilitating it by treating them as if not striving for excellence is okay when they do it because of who they are. So they're going to look at this and they're not going to touch it.
Yeah.
Because they don't want any, they don't want any evidence because hard work makes a difference.
Yeah. Social justice warriors think every person is the same. So they all are the same. And so any differences in their performance, in outcomes, in like their life success, in grades, whatever, since everyone is the same, then any differences that come out must be the product of discrimination, and it must be top down. So this would break all that to pieces. I mean, the shit's like, it doesn't hold a lot of water as it is, but this is like further evidence of that. So I want to read some super chats. Observing Libertarian gives us another $5. Thank you. And he says, SJWs don't want to give credence to IQ. Research shows that certain races have higher IQs on average. East Asians have an average IQ of 106. That was his comment. I agree with that. I know that the bell curve is real. I would also add, though, that I think that it could be a combination of cultural attitudes, like tiger parenting is a real thing, but that also, I think, plays into sexual selection, because if Asian women they value IQ and they value success and status, and that's the measure by which a hierarchy is formed in that culture, then she will select for that. And that means that she's going to, more of the smarter guys are going to get married and have kids. And therefore, because they have that cultural need to excel in those areas pushed onto them, then they will push that onto their kids, and the cycle continues. And that's
It's almost
why
like
that is.
nature. It's almost like nature. It's not nature versus nurture, but nature and nurture affect each other.
Yes, I think they do, and that's what
That's called
my
evolution.
suspicion. I think Mike or Max was going to say something, or maybe Allison, because she popped in here
Yes.
real quick.
I'm
I
in.
see the other super chats. I'm getting to them, but we're also talking about the story. So Cap Strong wrote, I don't know how much he gave us though. He wrote, look up the grounds for.
That one's okay to skip because nobody understands it. But
All
you
right
can say
then, but you put it in the. All right. Well, anyway, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna go ahead and read the next one. Cap Strong writes, "You're running a Victorian syllabus in a Jetsons world, in my opinion." Okay, I think I know what you're saying. So yeah, I don't know what that means, but I got it. $10, thank you, Cap. And then Mark the Atheist writes, "Previous super chat was meant to be $20. Oh, because it was something about beer, right? Equal opportunity beer grant money for the Badgers. Thank you, Mark."
There we go.
I think that's it. But thanks, Mark. That's great. $20, man. That's very generous.
good job.
But the basically the point I was trying to make here is that social justice types like to see things. They don't accept shades of gray, so they like to see things as a zero-sum game, as an either-or thing. So you can't talk about merit, you can't talk about hard work, you can't talk about the fact that that can be a path for success without somehow being accused of claiming that it is always a path to success, and that anybody that didn't succeed only didn't succeed because they didn't work hard enough. And you can never have a discussion like this about things like this type of discrimination in a social justice environment without the progressive stack coming in, because that has to not to offend the social justice types, that has to trump everything. And
Believe me.
so believe me. I'm kind of hoping that this sets off a discussion, because the fact is, this isn't just nature and it isn't just nurture. The two combined have an effect, but it does show that hard work and diligence means something, and that basically that this type of discrimination is still discrimination. That quotas, having a quota system, even if it's intended to benefit people who are considered disadvantaged, what it ends up doing is creating artificially disadvantage for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still damaging.
And again, this could likely affect foreign students disproportionately as well, because you get a lot of Asian foreign students. Basically, you get it's not just Asian foreign students, like as in China, Japan, Korea, and all the Philippines, whatever. But this would also affect East Asia or Indians, because they're considered Asian, and some Middle Eastern peoples too. And when those people come here to go to college, they usually already undergo like some strenuous testing to see if they can get in. I've noticed that where I went to school, the foreign students I met were some of the most diligent and the smartest and the most committed to basically doing this well, because it's almost like their chance to essentially, come to America. So it's almost like side effect of the brain drain, where you get a lot of really smart people that come here to find work, and then they take those smart people leave the countries of origin, and but it's done on a student level. So they come here, like I knew a girl from Moldova who I went to school with, who was Russian, and her family grew up in communist Russia, and there was a lot of people that were doing very badly there. So they wanted the best for her. So they sent her here, and she was one of the most talented artists and smartest girls I ever met at that school. And it was because she knew where she came from. But the thing is, now that she's here and she's graduated, she plans to stay here. she's not going to go back. So, Russia or Moldova specifically lost someone that, would probably bring them a lot of value. But that's just the way it works. So
the doctor that treated me when I had encephalitis was Asian. She was Indian. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this is I don't know. This really actually kind of gets to me thinking about this. I'm going back and thinking through various people that I've met. Something that a lot of people probably don't realize is, as for not all Asian students in the United States are foreign. Like there are many students in universities today, and there were many students in universities when I was in school that are Asian, that are multiple generation Americans, and they don't all come from upper class environments. There are whole neighborhoods that are Asian and poor, that you go to school on a scholarship because you're poor, and you get that scholarship because you worked hard in school and you got terrific grades, and you get to the college level and they're like, well, you have to do better than everybody else to get in because you're Asian. How is that fair? Mm-hmm. How is that not racism? How is that not discriminating against an already disadvantaged person simply because, hey, they happen to be the wrong race to be considered disadvantaged?
Right. All right, I got another super chat from Observing Libertarian. I think this guy's figured out how to get your chat read the most. Instead of giving you $20 at once, you give us $5 and then you put a comment in. So he writes, SJWs are premised on postmodernism, which employs relativism to exclaim all things, cultures, people are equal. Therefore, meritocracy is oppressive. This is absolutely true. This is what we were just saying. But thank you.
Which is funny because if all people were genuinely equal, meritocracy couldn't be oppressive.
Yeah.
Does it simply mean that people that work the hardest would rise to the top?
Yes, and they still do. Even though they put stuff in place to try to elevate people who are, less qualified, it ends up blowing up in their face most of the time in some way, which we're going to get to, I think, with this with a story that we have coming later on. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the next one, unless anybody has anything final to say about China. Well, Chinese students specifically, and Japanese and all the other ones. Okay, go ahead, Max.
I'll just echo your sentiments about, people that come from that part of the world over to this part of the world. My sister, she's currently going into social work, and she's working in the same city that I live in, where there's predominantly people that come from East Asia.
Yeah. And
we used to live in a different city for the majority of our lives, and she used to do work there. But now that she's come here, she's like, my God, all the kids that I'm working with are so well-mannered. They're so polite. They're so studious. So, yeah.
Well, there's definitely a cultural aspect of it, but I think it, like I said, I think they play together. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on to the next story. Hey, Hannah, since you wrote this one and you're here, why don't you tell us about it? It's
you want me to read it?
The Kansas governor story.
Okay. Well, the first thing I got to clarify: this isn't just Kansas. No. And the Kansas story was sent to me a few days ago, and I put it in our sort of queue for what stories we're looking at and everything. And then when I got a closer look at it, it was from 2012. Mm-hmm. So I started looking into this more. This has been going on since about 2010. So for almost a decade here, we've been seeing states do this. So I'll go on to the story. Requiring the use of U.S. law in U.S. courtrooms deemed discriminatory. I'll just let that sink in for a minute. Several U.S. states, Montana and Michigan recently prominent among them, have passed or are considering laws barring courts and, in some cases, government agencies from using foreign laws to inform their decisions. This would limit courts to U.S. law in both criminal and civil matters and prevent agencies from obligating citizens to adhere to or penalizing citizens under non-U.S. laws. The wording of Michigan's bill is specifically protective against the enforcement of foreign law or contract provisions if such would result in a violation of a right guaranteed by the Constitution of this state or of the United States. Opponents of these bills, which do not single out religious law, have dubbed them anti-Sharia bills and are condemning the trend as Islamophobic. The Council on American Islamic Relations condemned a 2012 Kansas law of this type as being written to target Islam, despite the fact that it did not mention Islam or Sharia law. Opponents of that bill and others like it have complained that the trend singles out Muslims for ridicule. They also argue that such bans could nullify wills or legal contract between Muslims, yet are unnecessary because American laws prevail on U.S. soil. These self-contradictory arguments are being made in response to each bill, that if passed, these laws would affect contracts and other legal actions, yet that they are unnecessary because only U.S. laws are currently in use. The question is, if only U.S. laws are currently in use in these states, how could banning the use of foreign law affect any existing legal actions?
Exactly.
I just want to reemphasize something. The Michigan bill is being criticized for barring actions that would result in a violation of a right guaranteed by the Constitution of Michigan or of the United States. Think about that. We have people criticizing legislators for passing laws to protect civil rights.
Yeah. And this is like being entertained today. Like, this is something we're actually having this conversation. What?
Yeah. But don't worry, guys. There's no push to get Sharia law put into place in the United States over and above our laws. There's no push to subvert the American Constitution and the American legal system. No. It'll just mess everything up if you stop them from doing that, and it's discrimination.
Sorry, I just have a quick question. I'm just trying to get some clarity. In respect to these laws, is there actual wording that says that they don't want religious law interfering with what pre-existing American law? Is that what it actually says, word for word?
Nope.
Oh.
Nothing about religion, nothing about Sharia law, nothing about any specific foreign country's law. It just says that only U.S. laws and state laws of the state in question will be considered in that state's courtrooms and by that state's agencies. That is it.
Jesus
Christ. That is what. Now, this all started with somebody accusing judges of using Sharia law in courtrooms in certain cases, and this did begin with a state. I think it was Arizona was the first one. They did pass a law against judges employing Sharia, supplanting U.S. law with Sharia law, where the two were in conflict, and that was thrown out by the Supreme Court as discriminatory, and they reasoned that it would prevent the use of Sharia law in the writing of contracts between Muslims. Well, as far as I'm concerned, there are circumstances under which, because of the social structure within various religions, it's not just Islam, other religions have this issue as well. Some people will be in a better bargaining position than others in terms of signing, say, premarital contracts and things like that. And this is something that, depending on the culture that gets brought into the United States from various areas, and depending on the culture within various aspects of U.S. culture, this could go both ways. It could be discriminatory towards either sex. It could be discriminatory towards any group of people. And so it is important that there not be one set of laws for one group and another set of laws for another group, and so on. And you shouldn't be able to supplant any law that protects a civil right because you're a religious group doesn't agree with that civil right. That is a fundamental aspect of the separation of church and state. Something that usually the left is pushing And in fact, they
still
scream from the heavens about the
They-
separation of church and
They're
state.
all
when
over that
it's-
when it comes to like Christianity and Catholicism. All over it. Even probably even those of the Hebrew chosen faith. They can't employ that. But when the big eye shows up, then they're
You
like,
can't
oh,
stop.
well, you don't want to oppress these people. This is just a way of life. Here, here's my gay Islamic friend. You know, see, they're cool. Let them use Sharia law. It just means be good to each other, dudes.
And that's just it. When Christians argue that Medicaid shouldn't pay for abortions because it's using Christians' tax dollars to pay for something that Christians, not necessarily all Christians, but Christians as a majority do consider to be murder, all of a sudden it's a separation of church and state thing. When pro-lifers make that argument, who are not Christians, it's still argued as a separation of church and state thing. But when you want a person who has the power to push another person in negotiation because of their culture into signing an agreement that person might not be comfortable with, that would result in a violation of a right guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States, all of a sudden you're anti-religion, or you're racist, or you're sexist, or whatever, you're Islamophobic. If you want United States federal law and that particular state's state law to take precedence over the laws of a particular religion.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have it both ways. You just can't.
No,
either there is a separation of church and state, or there is not.
Right, but there is, thank God, pun intended. Observing Libertarian gave us $5, and he writes, United States citizens should be subject only to United States law while on United States soil. Sharia law not applicable and need not apply. Well, not just Sharia law. I mean, we could extend this. Like, if the Catholic Church from the Vatican started to demand that we change laws to fit their teachings, then that would also be as wrong. I mean, even if the consequences of doing that would likely be less severe. But I think that obviously, since they're not making a big shit show out of it, and the only ones that seem to be, at least in the example given in this article, are the national Muslim groups. I don't know the name of the group in question. I'm looking in the article, but that's not relevant. That is the reason why this needs to be pointed out.
The Council on American Islamic Relations was one that spoke up.
Yeah, so sorry guys, but there are parts of the world where you can go where Sharia law is the dominant law if you want it, but the United States is not that place, friendo. So I don't have anything else to add.
Well, speaking as a Brit, I start very few sentences.
I understand that you guys have a little bit of that going on over there. What were you going to say?
Well, no, correct me if I'm wrong, but the USA was formed on the grounds that it doesn't want to live under the law of another country. This one.
Yeah. The U.S. was formed on the grounds that it is on us to choose our own representatives, and that we do not want some foreign power forcing us to deal with their laws without, it was about having our own representation. That was a big thing in the formation of the country, that the king was making these stipulations and the parliament was rubber stamping them, of course, and so on. With respect to the United States, there was nobody from the United States, the colonies, that was representing the colonies. The colonies didn't have any say in the matter. The colonists had no say in the matter. And, of course, we rebelled and we won.
Yep. Mike, were you going to say anything else?
No, I'm done.
Okay.
I've done my quip for this hour.
That's a good quip. Yeah, thank you. Observing.
Yeah, actually, our founding fathers would probably at this point be loading up their muskets.
Absolutely.
Fortunately, we live in a society where we've already had our revolution, and we don't have to do that. All we have to do is support the people in office who are protecting our civil rights now, and vote the bastards out who aren't.
All right, Observing Libertarian gives us another $5 and wants to clarify a point from earlier. Our religious law systems also are not applicable and need other religious law systems are also not applicable and need not apply. This article was simply the result of Islamists staying on topic. I agree. I was just making that point in case people in the chat may have missed it. I wasn't really correcting you. I figured you knew that. Cap Strong gives us $5. Thank you, Cap, and writes, problem is the separation of religion and state has become blurred. Well, I don't know about that. I think there are people that are trying to push it. And yeah, there is some dispute or debate about whether or not values that we simply consider to be American, which are the things that the Constitution were based on, are still rooted in some Christian values as well. That is entirely possible. I don't really care, provided that it doesn't become a religious, a religious institution that runs the country. There will be people that are religious that are going to get into positions of power, but that's why we have checks and balances within our government. So I understand where you're coming from with the blurred thing, especially when you have these religions that there are parts in the United States right now where in Muslim areas like that are predominantly Muslim in population, which in the United States is actually pretty rare. It's not. I think it's far more common obviously in the UK and Europe. But also, I think Canada has a lot more Muslims there. But we do have them in the States. And in the areas where there's like a lot of a dense population of Muslims that live, they actually they do Sharia law within those areas, like just privately. And they make it sort of like, that's like the system they work through before they go to the legal system generally. That means, though, if you're like a Muslim and you get married and you want to get a divorce, you actually have to get 2 divorces. So
boy, that suck.
Yeah,
one divorce
really.
is hard enough on people. I've seen that just about break people.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what arbitration people have outside the court, I don't think the government has any right to interfere in that. If you make an agreement outside of the court system and you deal with your agreement outside of the court system and you both stick to whatever you dealt with outside of the court system, I think that's fine. Even if it's not something that fits in with my culture. If it's that group's culture, whether it's Islam, whether it's any other group, whether it's Mormon, whether it's Catholic, I don't care. As long as nobody's actually abusing somebody where they're forcing them into a situation against their will and in violation of laws and stuff like that, that's different. But I mean, if there's a negotiation, it's the same thing as like I walk into if I were single and I walk into a bar and I get together with somebody and we start a relationship, the government doesn't have any say in that. Mm-hmm. And if we end that relationship and we never got married, the government doesn't have any say in that either. If I give somebody something, the government doesn't have any say in that unless it's of such a value that they think they have the right to tax it. So all of this stuff, this idea that these things are happening outside the court system, that's irrelevant. That doesn't matter. What matters is it can't influence the court system. Mm-hmm. And that we can't have a court system. Right now, we already have too much religion in our court system. Right now, our court system will uphold laws against vices. That's bad enough. We have legislated that people's stupid behavior is criminal. We've criminalized things like having sex outside of marriage and exchanging money for it. We've criminalized using substances that people get high on. We've criminalized drinking on the wrong day, or at least buying alcohol from the wrong place on the wrong day. And a lot of that's just so that the government can tax your vice. This is all bullshit. Mm-hmm. It's good that they've started passing laws saying that U.S. law and the Constitution have to rule the courts, because that puts a foot in the door for things like, well, it's a ideological value or a religious value that children should be with their mothers more than with their fathers. It's an ideological value or a religious value that when heterosexual sex happens, the man is more accountable or responsible for what happened than the woman, always, regardless of the situation. Those things right now in our court system are being ruled over by people's ideological beliefs and people's morals and values. They're not being ruled over by civil rights laws, by the constitutional rights that we have. They're not being ruled over by non-discrimination. They're not being ruled over by gender neutral law. So this is actually a good thing all around.
Yep.
You know, it's good for people of all religions. It means that if you're Protestant, the Catholic Church can't dominate your civil rights and quash them. And if you're Catholic, Protestants who are anti-Catholic can't do it to you. It means that if you go to a church, you're a religious person, atheists cannot take that away from you. It means if you're an atheist, your religious neighbors cannot force you to go to their church. That's all very important. So, like, the idea that this is, it's been expressed in our chat that this is a nationalist thing. You know, that it is a nationalist thing is not necessarily bad. And it's not necessarily right or left.
No.
It is a civil thing. It is a citizenship thing. It is a individual power versus state power thing. And this is a situation where the state has to be kept in check. It has to have a consistent standard, and it can't deviate from that standard because one or another group of people have feelings about it.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you, Hannah, for making that point. I guess we'll just go on to the last story. We got through this pretty quick, considering how many stories we had. I think it was all because of Scott. No, I'm kidding. Scott's a good guy. Miss you, man. Let us know if you ever want to come back. All right. So last story. I'll go ahead and run through this one. Uber can't catch a break. I love this one. Uber can't seem to shake off the funk they find themselves in after questionable allegations of sexism and the resignation of CEO Travis Kalanick. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Former Uber CEO Kalanick found himself in hot water after President Donald Trump took office as he was part of Trump's Economic Advisory Council. Oh no, supporting people. Despite severing ties with Trump and amid allegations of impropriety, Kalanick stepped down as CEO on June 21st due to pressure from investors, though he still maintains a seat on the company's board. Ever since Kalanick's resignation, Uber has been looking for a replacement and has taken heat for narrowing its choices down to 3 male candidates. Those quick to cry sexism failed to notice that of the potential candidates so far, Facebook's chief operating officer Sheryl Sandberg, I didn't mean to put so much emphasis on the word, on the Berg part, General Motors chief executive Mary Barra, and HP, as in Hewlett Packard's chief executive Meg Whitman, shut up Meg, have all turned the job down. Despite this, Uber finds their hiring practices being slammed as misogynist and sexist. Even if Uber does manage to hire on a qualified female CEO, it is uncertain if their reputation will ever recover.
I got to say something about this because this is being cited as an example of women getting called in to clean up after male CEOs fuck things up. And one of the women that has been saying that
like
shit
maids?
is Ellen Powell, who went into Reddit and fucked things up worse. But here's the thing. Unless you are the very first CEO of a company, or you happen to follow a CEO who retires, which is becoming increasingly rare because it's becoming easier and easier to get somebody ousted by just bitching about something minor. So unless you are in a situation that isn't really the most common way a CEO gets hired, you're always called in to clean up the previous CEO's mess. Mm-hmm. Not only that, even in the situation where a CEO does retire, it's quite likely that having been in the business for that long, they do things in a way that is old-fashioned in comparison to whatever the new CEO is going to do. And so the new CEO might still consider themselves brought in to clean up a mess. So when you start hearing well, female CEOs only get brought in to clean up the mess of a male CEO that was there before them. That would be a good point to come back with. When does a CEO not have a mess to clean up? When a CEO leaves and a new CEO comes in, whether it's a man or a woman, they are still going to have a mess to clean up. In this situation, it's going to be a man cleaning up a mess that may or may not be the previous CEO's fault. It doesn't matter whether it is or not, but clearly it's not sexist when he's got to clean it up. So quit your bitching and do the job, ladies.
How
if
about
you can't quit your bitching and do the job, then quit bitching about not getting the job.
how about Uber just hires the best person for the job? How's that? Because
Then there might not be any messes to clean up.
Then maybe they could just get a good employee in there, a good CEO that knows what he's doing. And that person could actually do a good job and put Uber on the map. I wonder if Lyft has this problem.
One thing.
So their
name is sexist.
They offered it to 3 people who were women: Sheryl Sandberg, Mary Barra, and Meg Whitman, all of whom are really high-ranking employees and CEOs or CFOs at other companies: General Motors, Hewlett-Packard, and Facebook. And they turned the job down. So is it enough if you offer it to a woman who is powerful and has a lot of money and, does her job, and she says no? Does that not count as still being pretty progressive or whatever? Does that not count? I guess not. This is why you never apologize to these people, ever. You can never satisfy them. I don't know what else to say. I just hope they hire one of those 3 dudes, or maybe all 3 of them, and have them work on it together and fix it, because men can fix things. I know it's crazy, but they can. You don't have to hire a maid when you have a mess and make sure it's a woman. That's sexist. You can just get the best qualified person for the job to do it, and then you don't look like an asshole. And you actually get the job done. Done.
You don't have to be an Uber mensch. Just be a mensch.
Oh. Okay. Can I just point something out? I mean, doesn't this all occurring within this ideological construct that women and minorities have special
it's occurring
women and minority
within
powers?
It's occurring within the
special powers.
Yeah, it's occurring within the ideological construct known as California and Silicon Valley.
But yes, you're right.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Allison.
they're supposed to have these special powers.
They're supposed to have the special powers, the special gyno powers.
All it does is
supposed to be superior.
They hire people of color, women, the disabled, trans people, whatever. Put them there, and they say, "Well, that was fantastic. Look at that person. That's not like us. That's in that position. Oh, this is going to be so great. I get to tell everybody that I have a disabled trans woman, lesbian." Who is of color that just recently converted to Islam, and she's gonna make it all right on top of that, because I know that she's just kick-ass and empowered, and she's gonna do just fine. And of course that person may not. I mean, they might, but they might not, because you didn't hire them for the right reasons. But that doesn't matter, because now I get to look good because I made that hiring decision, and that's more important than getting the right person for the job.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's the magical powers. It's the magical mystery minority powers.
Yeah.
I know that you have them, Brian.
I do.
That's why I hired you.
Yes.
You're a magical mystery minority.
Well, I have the magical power of essentially being a good shield to use when people accuse us of being racist or something.
Well,
isn't it funny, though, when you put it that way, it makes me think of, there's a trope, what the magic black man or something like that shows up and gives you the secrets of the universe in stories that social justice types absolutely rail against. Mm-hmm. And yet they do portray women and minorities as inherently superior, and they could do the job better, and they could fix things and everything. But God forbid that you call them in to actually do that, huh? Well,
it's like this argument I got into on Twitter. over. Well, actually, it wasn't real. I've learned my lesson. I don't get into arguments over Twitter, but there was this individual who was saying that, retweeting this Rick and Morty, the people who created Rick and Morty. They said, "Oh, Rick and Morty is so much better now that we have women writing for us."
I actually heard it got worse because of that.
Yeah,
I haven't watched season 3, but I heard it got worse.
I was really excited to watch season 3, and then I saw that tweet, and I'm like, oh no. And it's not because I think women are bad writers, because I've seen some really, really, really good women writers.
Yeah.
It's when they put it that way that I know it's gonna fucking suck. Well, if they had said, I don't know, Janet and Clara, they're just really knocking it out of the ballpark this season.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had a problem with it, because they were saying these two individual writers are good, not these writers who somehow managed to write with the crevice between their legs.
Now that we've added women.
Yeah, now that we've added the crevice people. We know that the crevice people, they have excellent comedic timing because of their crevices, and in fact, we haven't. It's just the most retarded thing.
So,
and then
if they're writing with their crevices and you applaud them, does that mean you just gave them an STD?
Yes, it does.
Okay,
that's where you were going.
Okay, but so I said to this individual, for some reason I have this. I follow a whole bunch of Kekistanis, Gamergaters, men's rights activists, people from more conservative bent, and a few classical liberals, and then I have the one crazy social justice warrior that I have no idea why I started following, but I just can't stop. It's like rubbernecking the disaster zone. And so she responded by saying, "Oh, well, you're just reducing them down to their being women and saying that they can't write." And I'm saying, no, I am not saying that. I'm saying they can't necessarily write because they are women. You can't say women can write because they're women.
Well, what you basically did was object to them being reduced down to their vaginas and being and having it said that because they have them, they can write.
Yeah, I objected to that.
She basically accused you
of doing what she did.
Doing the thing that you were complaining about having been done.
Yeah, and this is why I never get into arguments on Twitter, because whenever I get into argument, that's exactly what happens.
By the way, there are social justice trolls that they're not. I don't think they're real social justice warriors. They just parrot social justice ideology, but they will follow you to get you to follow them. So it's possible that you followed this person that way. And then if she's ever accused you of stalking for following her, that's how you know this is somebody that followed you to get you to follow them, so that in the midst of some argument or another, they could accuse you of stalking.
Well, all I know is this particular individual is irritating. The reason why the first altercation I got in with her was somebody made a comment about an artist changing a character that they liked into a woman, and they did it on their blog, and she labeled that harassment. So somebody writing a criticism of somebody else's art on their blog is harassment.
Yeah,
it's the same idiotic logic as, oh, she's a crevice person, therefore her writing must be sublime. It's anyway. Okay, I think we're at the end of the show, right, Brian? Like, I feel like I've derailed sufficiently.
Yes, but Brian said in the chat that he would be right back, so he's not here to end it.
Oh my fucking god, we're running blind, eh? We don't have anybody stopping us from going off the rails.
No, totally off the rails. By the way, being confined to the rails is just so sexist, because the rails are a masculine construct, right?
I have returned from...
Speaking of masculine constructs, welcome back.
Yes, thank you. I've returned from seeing a man about a horse. Now, are we ready to wrap up the show?
I think so. I would like to direct people's attention to the top right hand of the stream, where you can see a little eye that you can click on and go to Feed the Badger. If you enjoy our content, I would recommend supporting us so that our content doesn't mysteriously vanish into Google's black box at some point. To the deep
Google's black hole.
To the deep chasm, the other black crevice.
Oh, jeez.
The black sucking crevice at Google. Anyway, that's feedthebadger.com. Every little bit helps. Throw $5 in the hat, and we will appreciate it and continue to do these things that we are doing right now and stopping at this moment. Go ahead, Brian.
We are stopping now. So thank you for joining us. I'm going to be reading Milo's Dangerous in the after show. If you are one of those patrons, I will see you then. And as for the rest of you, I don't know. Good night. Why aren't you in there with us?
Anus people.
Anus people? No, they're just crevice people. There are crevice people, and then there are hoodoo people.